Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Our guest today is the newly elected mayor of Moorhead, Minnesota, Delray Williams. Mayor Williams, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
As we get started, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and your background, where you're originally from.
I am from Minot, North Dakota. Born, raised, went to college, Holshmere there, and then moved to Fargo. I have degrees in accounting and management. I was a CPA in public accounting for most of my career. Spouse Ron is an engineer, teaches at MSUM, and I have two kids that are in college, and they're both, so we're empty nested just recently.
Okay. But you've been in Moorhead for how long, and what got you interested in running for mayor?
Been in Moorhead for about 23 years, and I've just always been very involved in a variety of things. And, mayor was not on my bucket list by any means. I retired at 50, and I was primarily doing, just being active in the community and with nonprofits. And I just wanted another choice. And there was actually two other people that I would have been really pleased with, and they couldn't. They were both men, and so it wouldn't have been another first woman kind of thing. And they did not and couldn't. And so at the last minute, actually the day before, the last day of the filing, I just said to my spouse, "I think I'm going to do it," and he just said, "Cool." So. I wouldn't recommend doing things like that at the last minute, but I did.
I understand, of course, it was a crowded field in the race, and understand you were a little surprised that you were elected, or you made that statement, I think. Can you talk about how all that transpired and what you think happened there?
I think people were open to another choice, somebody new also. So there was four of us. Kevin Shores, who's run a number of times, primarily on a legalizing medical marijuana platform, and then two city council members, and then I was just out of the blue for a lot of people, and I did know that if I was legitimate enough, I could win. I mean, nobody goes into running, I don't think, unless they think they can win.
So how have your first few months on the job been, and sort of what have you been doing to get up to speed, so to speak?
It's interesting how when you get into it, there many things I did already know because I have been watching, and I'm very involved in. I had friends on city council and involved in a variety of city kind of related things, but mostly asking questions. Before I actually went on, I had met with all the city council people. We did lunch or a long coffee for a couple hours each to to talk about, where their priorities were, where their interests were, just to get to know each other, those kinds of things. I also met with all sorts of things people beforehand, and then I've been continuing that as I've been going into it.
Well, have you sought advice or counsel from former Mayor Mark Voxland?
I did, and truthfully, during the election we had lunch. After the election we had lunch. We have lunch occasionally. He texts me every now and then because I know he's watching. He'll say "good job" or something like that, and we try to kind of connect every now and then, and he's been very helpful for any time I have questions about how did you handle this kind of situation, and he was very helpful. We actually he arranged for lunch for four of us, which was former Mayor Maury Lanning, himself, and former Mayor Wayne Ingersoll at one time over at John Alexander, which was really fun.
Well, good. Yeah, what would you consider sort of your style of management is, or sort of running the city? So,
I am a listener. I am a collaborator. I am somebody that listens to both sides. And so I think that people that have talked to me that were worried that I would be this kind of thing or this kind of thing. I've kind of found that I'm very pragmatic. I like information. I'm very much an accountant, so I kind of like information before making decisions or aiming people in certain ways.
Okay. Well, you mentioned you talked with city commissioners and other people. What about meeting with the residents? I know you had to get out there campaigning, I assume, but what are you doing now, and what are your goals in that endeavor as you go through your being the mayor?
I do a regular coffee with the mayor. It's a third Wednesday over at the Morehead Center Mall, so it's very not scary. You're not coming up to my office or anything like that. And I get quite a few people actually to that, and it's very interesting. We talk about a real variety of things, and it lets me kind of keep a pulse. And I've already decided that I will be door knocking. I know that sounds silly because obviously I personally don't see myself running again, but I have 5 years, so I don't really need to. But for me, I will be kind of out and about. I want to make sure I feel like I have the pulse of where people are at.
Okay. You mentioned the city commissioners before, but I assume you're getting to know them even better. What do you feel your relationship is with them as you get started here?
No, I have a good relationship with all of them. I'm very excited about each and every one of them. We are all different personalities. We all have different viewpoints, but to me, it's important that we talk. We have a good dialogue about that. We aren't pinching each other or trying to stoke kind of an animosity. That we actually work together, even if we disagree. We're doing it respectfully with each other.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the issues. One of the biggest ones, I guess, that's kind of out there is the FM diversion plan. What are your thoughts and opinions on this?
For me, there's a variety of things that people are talking about. For me, I'm very much looking forward to see what the Minnesota DNR's report that will be very comprehensive, and it'll probably come out. It was initially supposed to come out in November, but they asked for a 4-month extension, so that would make it about March that it comes out. And they will look at all the things that people are concerned about. Should it happen? Is there a better choice? Should it be moved to a certain farther up north? Should there be more retention? That kind of thing. And I kind of like, it's sort of like going to a doctor and you get like a second opinion before the surgery. I'm very much for that.
Okay. How long do you really think that we'll see it in our lifetime?
Well, it's not going to be in my term, I can tell you that. Hard to say. Really is hard to say. Sometimes it feels like it's like really moving quick, and then sometimes you think, oh, this is not going to happen.
Okay. Well, we could go a long time on that, but we'll move on to some other things. So, let's talk about things that Morehead has going for it, I guess. First off, how do you attract people and residents to come to Morehead?
When I first actually moved and bought a house in Fargo, truthfully, and when we were looking for a new place, our realtor says, there's this house in Morehead, and I thought, oh, seriously, Morehead, like every other North Dakotan does. And I had gotten information, and I could, do as CPAs do here, compare what would it cost for these kinds of things. And, as a professional, myself and my spouse being an engineer, we've never been median income. I mean, we've always been more than that. And it was very equitable, and people think that it's a lot more expensive, and it's not. And we found the house that we wanted, the neighborhood we wanted. I got very involved in Morehead, and I can't imagine moving back. No disrespect to Fargo or any other place in that, but it is very much a community town. You get to know your neighbors. People have community block clubs. There's 80 of them in the community. And it's that kind of thing that Morehead really is that makes people want to live there.
What about housing availability and then maybe incentives to buy? Is there availability?
There's availability, and we have a number of lots and developers that are working right now. We do have like a 2-year property tax exemption. Some of the property tax exemptions in other towns usually go to a certain dollar amount. Ours goes for the whole schmear of it, and so that could be more interesting. So we do have some high-end houses that have been building, but we do have a number of affordable housing too. So it does kind of run the gamut. There's a lot of good choices in Moorhead right now.
Well, with that said, you know, where do you see Moorhead seeing the most growth right now in terms of home construction? I guess, which direction is the city moving in?
There is a lot of activity. You know, we're kind of nice and we are not constrained by certain boundaries as much. We will probably be annexing Oakport soon. And in fact, it's to be January 1st of 2015. Mm-hmm. And that is a growing area. In fact, we've been doing the zoning and planning for it for the last number of decades. We've been actually doing that piece of it. And that is a largely growing area. To the east, there's a number of areas, except for where Dilworth butts right up to us. And then to the south, there's a lot of growth too. So really, there's a lot of different areas depending on where you would like to be. And all of it is not in the flood zones at all. So it's very, very interesting for somebody looking. It should be anyway.
You know, and how do you see, the cities are intertwined, Fargo, Moorhead.
Yep.
I mean, separated by the river, but
Yep.
a lot of times you're not paying attention. You can be in one city or the other and not even know it, just if you know what I mean.
Right, right.
So, but how are the cities really intertwined? And of course, they're working together so much. But,
right, right.
so,
and we should, you know, for efficiencies and things. It's, you know, I always say it's only a river. You know, bang, we're across this, you know, we're into North Dakota and we're shopping downtown or we're going to the West Acres. In the same way, it's not always that clear to most people where Moorhead starts and Dilworth starts as far as some of the businesses out there. I have a tendency to talk about going to Office Max in Moorhead, but really it's in Dilworth, you know, those kinds of things.
Sure. Sure. Well, you talk about businesses. So how does Moorhead attract businesses and restaurants to your city?
You know, that is the key question. It's my feeling that businesses will come when there's people. So when we talked about downtown revitalizing that, we're working on making sure that there's activities and things that draw people down there. That is one of my priorities. So I actually appointed myself to be on the Economic Development Authority instead of having one of the city council people be on there. And we just recently decided on a task force that's going to relook at our incentives to see if they best align with what businesses really need. And so I think it's good. I think we've had actually a number of new ones come in. We have a Sam's coming in that will just have started. The new Sanford. We have a huge Hornbachers and their complex and that stuff that just announced recently. And I know there's a number of them that are kind of in the wings right now. So we're really kind of in a growth moment, which is good.
You know, and you talk about a growth moment. You mentioned it. You know, how do I ask this? Is it growing too fast? Is it growing at the right pace, or do you need to push a little harder? Where do you fall in that?
I think there's some areas, if I hear citizens well, that we would like more restaurants. Okay, so that could be pushed a little bit. I think otherwise, we're going at a nice pace. I mean, it'll be where we can do things the right way. You know, so, and even last decade, frankly, we gained 18%. You know, so it's not real new, but it's at a nice, steady pace where we can keep up with infrastructure.
You mentioned restaurants. I understand Wano's was planning to locate in Moorhead, or relocate, I guess, and now they've changed their mind. Can you talk about that situation?
You know, I'm a Wanos fan, frankly. So, you know, I understand where they're going with this. They have, they personally were in a mode where they wanted to work more on their franchise versus the downtown Fargo store. And so they were exploring different areas, and I think it really got out in the news quicker than they were prepared to, which I think is unfortunate. And sometimes it happens. Businesses are trying to figure out where they are, and when that did, they got you know, a lot of people that showed interest to make sure that it stayed where it was, and they listened to that, and that's good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what about a convention center? Does Morehead need a convention center or a facility like that, in your opinion?
I think we could. I do a fair amount of welcomes, and it's always intriguing to me when I'm welcoming over in Fargo, especially when it's a North Dakota entity doing it in North Dakota, and they're asking me to welcome. And I always warn them. I said, but you're going to hear about Morehead then. And but we could. Our Marriott gets a fair amount of them. We do have a number of other restaurants that could. The Marriott could use like a little to be just a tad bigger to bring in some of those Minnesota conferences, particularly those that need to stay in Minnesota. And I know that's in their works, but when they do it, I'm not sure.
Okay. What about the impact the colleges in town have for Morehead with Minnesota State University, Morehead, and Concordia?
It's huge, and that was one of the things I talked about when I was running, actually, because we don't collaborate, we don't connect with the colleges and the students in the way we should. We have about 14,000 students in Morehead in a town that's about 40,000. So that makes us a college town. We are a college town. I think it's time we celebrate it, we act like it. Don't pretend, you know, quit pretending that they're not really there or they're just, you know, on the sidelines. And so I have been meeting with students. That was something I said I would do, and I have been doing it. And because, you know, the real truth is we would like them to either decide to stay in Morehead in the area, build their homes or businesses in our area, or if they go off, they talk well of their time in Morehead, and if they have the opportunity to come back, that they do come back. So it only makes sense.
Okay. Well, and then what about a center like the Yumkamp Center? Does it have an impact on Morehead?
It is. It's something for us to rally around. We do a lot of community events there, and also the people that come there are from all over the country and from many countries. My son used to work in the gift shop there before he went off to college, and he was always amazed about how many languages that people come in there. And it's really interesting to know how many people from different states actually do tourist to our town, and they often go there. It's a very nice facility.
Speaking of facilities, we're jumping around a little bit here because we're trying to cover a lot of ground.
Yep.
But what about Bluestem in Trollwood now, and what kind of impact has that had on Morehead?
You know, Bluestem Center for the Arts is gorgeous. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about that. It's and it'll only be nicer as they develop more things with it. Having Trollwood over there is a really nice asset to our community. We're pleased that they were able to bring that over there. And you know, it's really exciting about what kinds of shows and stuff that we can do. We just announced recently, what was it, Beach Boys, Trampled by Turtles, Bonnie Raitt, and it's another young. But I liked that they were like aiming at 20s and 30s, because our median age really is 28, our town. It's a young town.
Okay. Well, a young town. So we'll go to young people. What do you think the Morehead school system's like now? I'm talking K through 12 probably, and what are the future challenges that you may have upcoming regarding schools in Morehead?
Our schools are one of the biggest assets for people to come live in Morehead. We have, you know, we're known for our schools and what we do there. We're known for our hockey. statewide. We have actually Emmy-winning theater there. My kids went through it, and I was just always so pleased by how they handled things. I have one son that's on the autism spectrum, and things like that. They handle those individual kind of things very, very well. We're very proud of our schools. They are also growing, and so they will be needing to do some added on. And they've been doing some good planning, and they're doing it within their budgets. And so we'll see some more additions. Almost all of them are very state-of-the-art and pretty new, actually.
How do you feel the overall relationship is? And I'm going to include the 4 cities here with Moorhead, West Fargo, Fargo, and Dilworth. Mm-hmm. And do you know and work with those mayors?
Well, I didn't know them until I became mayor, obviously, but we have done some things, and I know we'll have a number of them coming up where all 4 of us get together. And so it's fun to kind of get to chat with them about their things and how they're handling things. Chad Olson from the Dilworth mayor and I had talked, and I said, so do we do much together? And he says, not really. And I said, shouldn't we? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let's do that. We could start with, nabbing some of the other mayors in the Minnesota side, and just doing a lunch occasionally, and just getting to know it. So we start talking. I get a kick out of Rich Mathern. He's fun. And I'm getting to know Mayor Wallaker. I thought we'd get to know each other better when I went down to D.C., but he had a tooth issue, so he couldn't join us. But yeah, I think we all get along well. It's kind of fun.
What about the combined chamber? Do you think that's working well?
I think so. I've met with their staff and their current president a few times, and I think that's an okay thing. Yep.
Okay. I always thought it would be a challenge, though, with 2 states, but the cities work together. It seems pretty well.
Pretty well, considering. I mean, there's times, obviously, that we'd have different things, but it seems to be very amiable.
Well, with that said, and a lot of things we've talked about, here's that open-ended question that you say you love to have. What are some other things that you feel Moorhead has going for it?
Moorhead is the kind of town that is very community-oriented. People there love their town. So you'll hear every now and then somebody will say something negative about Moorhead, and you can just feel this rising up, like, I can't believe they said that. But it's because once you live there, you kind of know it. And what I would like to do is help Moorhead see our own vision of who we are, be able to define ourselves better, so that we don't always feel like we're defending ourselves, but we're just saying this is who we are and we're proud of it, and that's good.
Okay. One issue I hear people do talk about is the issue of trains running all day through Moorhead and slowing traffic down.
Yep.
Is there anything that can be done about this, short of an overpass, underpass situation?
Well, that's part of it. We also have a separation grade that we have actually put a lot of money moving businesses and some actual homes from, and we'll be applying for a Tiger grant for what will be actually the 4th time. But in talking to our legislators, our U.S. legislators, that it's been 7 years since the transportation bill, and before that it was 7 years since the transportation bill. So we might be at that sweet spot where it happens, and that should alleviate about 30% of that traffic, which will be very important. And we are, yes, looking at an overpass on 11th.
Okay. Well, we've got just another minute or so here, but you mentioned 1 term, but we'll just talk about your first term then. What are your goals during your first term as mayor?
My major goals are, to connect the city a little bit more, not just certain factions or different pieces. I want us to be more collaborative in how we work together. I I want to work with our economic development to make sure people are real aware of what Moorhead has to offer. And in the same vein, with our housing, to make sure that people know that this is a choice. You should check it out before you make your housing choice.
Okay. Mayor, last question. If people want more information, where's the best place for them to go?
The best one is to go to our website, which is www.cityofmoorhead.com. And Moorhead is Moorhead.
Mayor, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse this week. And as always, thanks for watching.